Ms. Wicked Wolf, I would really appreciate it if you would not ask where I am at literally 10 seconds past when I was planning to be here. When it hits the 5-minute mark, that is one thing. But for crying out loud, I'm a human being, and timing is not my strong suit. Hi! Hey, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. There we go. If you celebrated Christmas, I hope you had a lovely one. If you didn't, I hope you had a very nice day yesterday, regardless. And hope everybody is doing well. You're still stuck with me on the headset mic because I haven't had the chance to replace my mid-range mic yet. I gotta do that. I gotta do a lot of stuff. Oh, it never stops. Anyway, welcome. If this is your first time joining me on stream, reminder that while I will try and keep up with the chat as it goes, the only things that will guarantee that I will see your comment and or question is to do it as a super chat, which will also get you a little heart of appreciation from me. So let's see. Oh, we have a new channel member, Owen Wilders. Thank you very much. Became a snazzy supporter. Very nice. CK Plays. Thank you for the super chat very much. Shout out to my friend Gabe Asher. A shout out to Gabe Asher, indeed. You have been shouted in an outward fashion. Huzzah! I don't know why I felt the need to do that. Who is the Ronnie? I've heard a lot about it recently. Oh, God. The Ronnie is a character from classic era Doctor Who. She appeared initially, I think, during the 6th Doctor's era. She basically was an attempt to give a refresh on a villainous Time Lord because the Master's shtick was stale and he had kind of become non-threatening. So rather than try and revitalize the Master or indeed retire him because he was still hanging around, they brought in another evil Time Lord. And that was the Ronnie. She made 2 appearances in the classic era. I think she's been used in some Big Finish audio stuff. She's not a very good character, or at least not in any of the stuff I've seen her in. Fans have been speculating about literally every single female, vaguely mysterious character that has ever been introduced into Doctor Who and gone, oh, I bet it's the Ronnie, and it's never the frickin' Ronnie. Someday it will be, just to prove me wrong, but like, it's not the Ronnie. Hell, hey Meg, good to see you, and thank you. Somebody lovely gave me this shirt. So let's see. Is it weird to have low self-esteem but not have any body issues? Well, yeah, there's plenty of stuff to have low self-esteem about. Your abilities, your talents, your sense of your own worth and what you add to the world, your confidence in your abilities to meet any of the goals you have. There's plenty of reasons to have low self-esteem other than body issues. The big one, of course, just being you feel the societal pressure of a bullcrap system that is designed to grind you down. So we all deal with that, regardless of anything else. I can't believe we're just a few days away from entering the new year, or in my home, Dad's birthday. He was born on New Year's Day. There's always some. That's the thing. There's always like this deal. This was the first baby of the new year. Yeah, and after that initial one, nobody cares. It's just like, oh, right, Dad's birthday. Oh, you're all hungover. Not necessarily. Not everyone drinks on New Year's Eve. I do, not always. Sometimes I do. We'll move on. Today's The Exorcist 50th anniversary. Cool. Don't care. It's an overrated movie. Please no Doctor Who Christmas special spoilers. I forgot about it in the Christmas cast. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Given that it only aired yesterday, yeah, I'm gonna say we need to put the kibosh on spoiler discussions or spoiler questions about that episode in particular. It's been long enough that I'm open to answering questions about the earlier 3 specials. And if you want to ask me some broad questions about the Christmas special, like, I don't know, what I thought of X performance or whatever, I'll do that. But let's try and be careful because it did just air yesterday. So let's try and avoid the spoilers if it is at all possible. Stop saying it's the Ronnie. It's not going to happen. Paraphrasing from my favorite teen movie, Mean Girls, which turns 20 in 2024. Stop trying to make the Ronnie happen. It's not going to happen. Vera should be a motivational speaker. I'd like to get paid what those people get paid. I'd take that. How is your dog, Meg? She doing good? Still scruffy little butthead? She's great. I love her. Why do you think The Exorcist is overrated? Because, speaking as someone who was raised in the horror environment that it helped spawn since, it doesn't hold up as a particularly scary or taboo-pushing thing, which is what it was at the time. Like, it's a well-made film. I'm not trying to say that it isn't, but it got its reputation on the back of shock. It was a shock horror film. Not in the way we now think of shock horror with like the most disturbing possible gore, but like shock in the sense of dealing with these religious notions and targeting a young girl in the way that that movie did was taboo at the time, especially in anything that wasn't a clear-cut exploitation film. It was a shock horror movie because for the level of prestige that it had from the pedigree of the people making it and the obvious skill that went into it, it was dealing with subject matter that, well, movies this well made don't deal with that sort of thing. But the shock is gone. 50 years later, who is shocked by this thing? I've only known a couple of people who were not alive when it came out, who found it shocking or disturbing, and they were pretty much all raised Catholic. So I will readily grant it probably still has an impact on people if it can tap into their own religious background, beliefs, and or trauma. But speaking as someone who is lacking in those particular things, yeah, no, it's fine. It's a little too long. Favorite Christmas movie? The traditional one that I'm sure to watch every year is Love Actually. That and a handful of Christmas specials. That's probably the only movie I go out of my way to watch every year at Christmas. Which Sixth Doctor story do you think is better, Vengeance on Varos or Mind Warp? Mind Warp with the asterisk that what happens at the very end of Mind Warp is messed up and I hate it. But overall, Mind Warp is just a better story than Vengeance on Varos. I still don't believe the Futtermans would have survived the snow crushing them. It's a movie, and especially given that they come back in the sequel, which is practically a Looney Tunes movie. I don't know what to tell you. The original Miracle on 34th Street, best Christmas film. It's good. I like it. Which adaptation of The Grinch is better, Cumberbatch or Carey? Neither. They're No, neither. I refuse to pick. I was going to try and make an argument, but the specific way you worded that, which adaptation is better? Neither. They are both terrible adaptations of the original source material. They both miss the point massively. as pieces of entertainment, I will grant that the Jim Carrey one is at least interestingly bad and car crash fascinating, whereas the Cumberbatch one is just boring as all hell. So they have different sins. They're both bad movies and they're both horrible adaptations. So I'm not ranking one over the other. Mean Girls is being remade. Well, technically it's it's being adapted from the musical version that shouldn't have existed in the first place, but this is the world we live in, where movies get turned into Broadway shows to get turned into the movies again, and the producers has a lot to answer for at this point. Am I gonna watch the ball drop? Probably. Let's see, where was I? That is the problem with The Exorcist. If you don't share its foundational beliefs, which Blatty did, but freaking didn't, it's actually not scary. Like, I still have a suspicion that it was probably still scary at the time, even if you weren't particularly immersed in those beliefs. That's supposition on my part. Obviously, I wasn't there. But, like, again, just where it was willing to go that other films of that caliber hadn't gone probably still shook some people, even if they didn't share the religious beliefs. But I think at this point, unless you share that religiosity factor to it, then yeah, I have a hard time seeing why anyone would find it scary now. Am I excited for season 1/series 14 of Doctor Who with Davies at the helm? I'm nervously excited, Danger Dave. If you've seen the latest review I put out, I alluded to the fact that I'm going to have to go off in a break room video, which I need to actually shoot and edit after the live stream, because I am very much confronted with the fact that RTD is just going by his old playbook. That's just what he's doing. And I let him get away with it for the specials because, like, if they brought back an old Doctor, it was okay for them to have an older feel. But at this point, almost nothing indicates that he is going to do what I wanted from him, which is to not just do what he did in 2005, to bring a different energy, to bring a more mature, more artistically refined, a different perspective to it than he did before. I'm just not going to get that. And we'll see how good I am at getting over that. I don't know if I'll be able to. That's really going to bug me. At a raw level, I think it is very likely I will certainly enjoy it more than Chibnall's era. But it's also probably going to have that thorn in my side the whole time of like, boy, would I have preferred if you were pushing in new directions. And if he does, if he surprises me, that'll be awesome. But I'm beyond expecting it at this point, for reasons that, as I said, I need to put together a whole other video on. Meg talking about her dog. Yeah, that dog. It took her a little while. She did grow to like me. Unpopular opinion, I like the 2018 Grinch movie. Great, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you did. I was real bored. The only Grinch movie I watch is the OG cartoon. Same. I saw Wish for Wings That Work. It was surprisingly sweet for Opus. I was really delighted to be introduced to that special this year. Actually, Carolyn introduced me to that. So she won't be joining the chat tonight, but we can thank her all the same. If you were born in the late 70s, early 80s, you're a Zennial. I'm Zennial. No, No, I'm not. No, I'm not even finishing that comment. Get out of here. Stop that. Stop that. I'm an elder millennial. I'm not sticking a freaking X in the middle of. No, stop that. Before he died, Ian M. Banks had an artist he knew produce artwork of aliens and ships in the series, of the Culture series. Oh, that's nifty. Live action Grinch lives rent free in the recesses of my Christmas despising mind. Yeah, if you don't care for Christmas, that movie. I mean, even if you do care for Christmas, that movie might turn you around on that. I massively prefer RTD's non-Who writing to his Who writing, so I understand the reservation about him not taking a new approach. I mean, it's just like, I look at what he's done since he stopped working on Doctor Who. Or even some of the stuff from the tail end of when he still was. You know, I look at something like Torchwood Children of Earth, which is still Doctor Who related, but is a very different feel. I look at something like It's a Sin. I haven't seen years and years, but I've read a lot about it, and I've seen lots of people's reaction to it, and I see all that, and I think that's who I want to see a new series of Doctor Who from. And I don't think I'm going to get that. Which, just again, is just going to kind of bum me out. Finally got around to reading the original Sandman comics. I got the books comprising the first 21 issues. Oh, you still got a way to go, my friend. There's 75. Great as it is, does Gremlins 2 count as a Christmas movie? No, it's not set at Christmas. No. Claiming that Gremlins 2 counts as a Christmas movie is like saying, excuse me, Die Hard with a Vengeance counts as a Christmas movie. You can have all the debate you want about the first entry in the series, but that later one, no. It's not set at Christmas. So no. Excuse me. If you're looking for a great black comedy show, Resident Alien on Peacock is great. I'm not really looking for anything right now. I am so far behind on so many things, including stuff that I wanted to see and stuff that I want to try and give the chance to get better, because I tried watching Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and it made me very happy, and then it pissed me off the very next episode, and I don't know if I'm going to have the energy to go back, because I think it's just going to keep pissing me off. I want to watch Poker Face. That one I'd like to see. Been meaning to find the time. Ugh. Never have time for it. This year has blurred past. It's been terrifying. Hang on. Let's see. Am I the only one slightly annoyed that we never got an in-universe explanation why 13's clothes changed when she regenerated into 14? No, but once I found out the actual reason why RTD chose to do that, which I don't agree with, I realized, oh, you're just not gonna. Okay, like I think if that was going to be done, an explanation should have been given, and I think there were plenty right there that they could have gone with. Just connecting it somehow to the toy maker, even there's technobabble you could have done to do that, but yeah, no, I already made my peace with the fact that we're not going to get it. Why am I getting texted? Hold on. All right. Let's see. Torchwood was so uneven. Yeah, it was. And let's be honest, it was mostly bad. My mother got me the concept art book for Christmas when she was looking for something else on Amazon, just because she was like, I remember you like this writer in this series. Well, that was real nice of her. Thank you so much for the latest Great Who review. Do you like the new Doctor being free from the horrors of the Time Lord, etc., that has haunted all the other recent versions? Honestly, yeah. I think they'd probably gotten most of the actual narrative benefit that was going to be gotten from that. I think it was time to move forward. Scott Pilgrim again, live action. No, animated this time, Meg. What's wrong with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off? The problem, Black Cover, is I can't tell you why it pissed me off without spoiling its first big thing, the thing that has dominated most of the conversation, that if you're familiar with either the original material or the movie is a big change, and that's still new enough and that change is big enough that I don't just want to blurt it out. But let me put it this way. If you've seen the show, you'll probably know what I'm referring to when I say the first episode, something that happens near the very end of that episode got me real excited and really pumped for what might come next. And then there's something that happens at the end of the second episode that, for me at least, almost completely undercut that and pissed me right off. It made me feel like the show pulled a fast one on me. It dangled something fantastic in front of me and then took it away. It pissed me off. Again, maybe it works out. Maybe it does not have as bad a fall on its face after that second episode as I'm afraid of, but I haven't had the energy to go back and do more after that second episode. It just really ticked me off that much. I know you don't like it but my Die Hard is Batman Returns, though unlike Die Hard, I feel I could make a case that Christmas is thematically relevant to Batman Returns. It's more integrated than it is in Die Hard, I think, honestly. In terms of sci-fi, we do have a really good time at the moment with The Foundation. Haven't seen it. Silo, haven't seen it. Dune, first one was only okay. And even despite how garbage it is, the new big name doing IP is Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, haven't seen that either. So, if this is the big moment for sci-fi, I'm clearly being left behind. Since this is the last live stream of the year, just wanted to wish you a Happy New Year. Oh, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. So does Christmas have to be the central plot for a Christmas movie, or does it just have to be set during Christmas? Okay, this is the argument that everybody has. In my view, Christmas should be not necessarily the central point, but it should be integral enough that if you set the movie at any other time of the year, it would require significant alterations. And I don't just mean a couple of sentences or lines, because unless it requires particularly deep changes, then in my mind, that's not a Christmas movie. That's a movie set at Christmas. Die Hard really rides the borderline on that. Yeah, I did know that, Lazink. I did know that, God, why can't I think of his name now? Alan Tudyk. I knew he was the star of that. Will I be reviewing the Ninth Doctor new big finishes? I have big finishes that I already own that I haven't gotten to, Benjamin. I am never going to get on. I'm never going to be able to jump onto new big finish stuff in a timely manner ever. I'm never going to have that kind of time. I'm going to start doing a shot every time Vera says no. Careful, Meg. You won't last long. I'm guessing that A Midsummer Night's Dream is going to be the surprise episode for season 2. The thing is, if with Sandman, if they do what I expect them to do, no, it would have to be part of the season proper. because it's my expectation. Well, okay, one of two things would be the case. It would be my expectation that they would maybe have that be a denouement finale. Because I don't want to spoil it for you, Rowan. There is a particular element that's going to come back up and is going to matter with what would most likely be a third season story. And I can't really explain to you what that is. Now, technically, they could do without it. Like, you could do the narrative without that element, but just given some of the notes that the main series ends on, I expect they'll integrate it in proper. Have you seen the Santa Clauses on Disney Plus? Nope. I absolutely have not, and I do not care. And no, it's not an anti-Tim Allen thing. I just, like, the first movie's fine. I've never seen any of the sequels. I have no interest in this. Like, why are there more? Why is there more than the one movie? I don't know, and I don't care enough to find out. On Torchwood, mostly bad. Have you still to watch Miracle Day? I have not seen Miracle Day yet. I am comfortable in saying that Torchwood is mostly bad, based solely on Series 1, Series 2, and Children of Earth. Do you think 14 is done or he'll return in the immediate distant future? So 14 meaning the 14th Doctor, David Tennant's second go. I don't want him to ever come back. He's done. He has his happy ending. Leave him alone. Will he ever come back? I mean, maybe. I don't want him to, though. Scott Pilgrim takes off, works out. Well, whether or not it works out depends on how it addresses my problem. And from at least the very few conversations I've had with people who have seen it all the way through, when I pointed out my problem and the thing that pissed me off, I kind of got yeah, you might still be pissed off. All right. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, Benjamin. What I wanted, based off what happened at the end of that first episode, was a completely new direction. And I honestly thought they were going to do that. But instead, the backpedal at the end of episode 2 says to me that stuff that I would happily leave behind and see the entire thing move on and away from as fast as possible is still going to be present. And to have it continue to be present at all in that fashion already ticks me off. Like, it is... The end of episode 1 was a slap in the face in a good way. And the end of episode 2 was going like, yeah, we might smack you again, and then just, Oh, that's all you're going to do the rest of this time, aren't you? Great. You shouldn't have told me I was going to get smacked around. I was looking forward to that. That's more information than I should be giving. Let's move on. Anyone get Drag Race vibes when the toy maker lip sync Spice Up Your Life? No, not really. I mean, is it vaguely drag queeny? Yes, but like Drag Race specifically, no. They don't have a patent on lip sync. I'm sorry. I'm at a point where I'm just annoyed that Drag Race specifically is shorthand for drag performance. Cause no, that show's actually shockingly limited in scope. So my annoyance has nothing to do with you. I'm nervous about how a Game of You is going to be adapted in season 2. Only slightly. Only slightly, because Gaiman seems to be very aware of what the issues were. All right, Purple Raider, and then I have to hop over to the Discord, and then I'll be back. Excuse me. Purple Raider, thank you for the super chat. I watched the second Doctor story, The Mind Robber, on Christmas Eve, and I loved it. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? I have seen it. I have a review up in the break room of Geeks. It's a good time. Boy, it's weird. So I'm going to hop over to the Discord real quick because that is the other place where you can ask me questions and I'm guaranteed to see them. It is a Patreon exclusive perk. So I'm going to hop over and take a look at that. I will be back as quickly as I can be after answering those questions. Feel free to keep talking in the chat. Just be aware that it's pretty much guaranteed I am not going to see your comment coming back unless it is as a super chat, because those will be highlighted for me. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to jump to the end of the chat and pick it up from when I get back. Anyways, here we go. On the Discord. Wow, that's a fair few. All right, here we go. Recently, I heard a view expressed that most Doctor Who companions are fridged. I point out that's numerically not the case, especially if you include the classic series, but it does seem like New Who's more melodramatic leanings do involve more tragic departures. Do you have any thoughts on tragic companion departures and fridging? Well, the first thing is, I would argue none of the companions have been fridged. Let's make a distinction right off the bat. A tragic end or even a death of a character is not the same as fridging. Fridging is a very specific kind of death of a character. It is the death of a character through usually a woman, though not always, but it is the death or brutalization of a character through cruel and unnecessarily harsh means. Like, the story does not require that it be this brutal, but it is. And the main purpose of doing it is not to affect that character's story, but to impact other characters in the story, usually men. So the most common situation is a girlfriend, wife, fiance, etc., of a hero character being assaulted, murdered, tortured, whatever, to motivate that male hero to seek revenge, go and rescue, etc. Like, it's more than just a damsel in distress thing. It's far, far worse. But I would argue Doctor Who has not fridged any of the companions, because even when a companion has a harsh ending, that is an ending to their story. It's not being done strictly for the purposes of impacting the Doctor's story. It will impact the Doctor. They have a relationship, it should, but it's not being done primarily for that purpose. The telltale sign of fridging is if in the aftermath is any focus given to the sense of closure or what happened since to that person, or is pretty much all the focus on just how it impacted everybody else and not actually much of a thought about what was lost by having lost that person, but just like, well, how did this make all them feel? And so I would say Doctor Who has never fridged his companions. Modern era Doctor Who does have a tendency to force the companions to leave by one means or another, be it death or be it just forced circumstances like Rose getting trapped in the other dimension. I've mentioned before, I don't like how much modern era Doctor Who does this. Again, it's not a fridging thing. It just has for me to do... It's kind of an impact of the modern era pretty much all having been written or at least show run by people who were previously fans of the show. And I think the problem is fans of the show have a hard time imagining why anyone would choose to stop traveling in the TARDIS. And since they can't think of a reason why someone would just stop, they tend to, as a result, force them out by often very traumatic means. So that I don't have a problem with it happening. It has become the standard, or at least it was for a while in the modern era. That was one of the things I'll give Chibnall credit for. He didn't do that with any of the companions. That I'll give him credit for that. That was a nice break. I'm not thrilled at the idea that we'll leap back into it. We'll see. With regard to the James Somerton thing, oh, God. And his so-called apology and how we leftists should react to it. Would you agree the idea of reformation/redemption needs to be separated from the idea of ever trusting him as video essayist in the future? A lot of responses I've seen are like, well, I hope he's well and can reform, but I still think he should never make any videos. I kind of compare it to a scenario where an alcoholic surgeon kills a patient because he was drunk. Like, I want him to get reformed and get over his addiction, but it'd be responsible to be like, okay, I want you to get better, but you should never be a doctor ever again. Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. James Somerton has no business ever making videos ever again. And his apology was crap. I saw 5 minutes of it and couldn't stomach listening to him anymore. And I read the transcript of the rest. He barely apologized at all. He didn't really. He centered his own pain front and center. which is a big red flag. I'm not going to question his sincerity and what he said about what he was going through. If he was being sincere, I hope he gets the help that he needs and gets to a better place. But even if it was sincere, front loading that in the beginning is a technique that minimizes the impact of what you did and minimizes your wrongdoing by centering your pain. And I'm not trying to invalidate his pain, but opening with that was a massive red flag. But yes, overall, I agree with you. Like, the simple thing is, dude, don't try and get back into videos. You have a business degree. Go into business. Leave us alone. You have every right to a livelihood, a future, and the chance to be better, but you have proven you are not to be trusted with this line of work. Go away. Do you think casting directors who are usually white on biopics and historicals make less of an effort actually getting someone who looks like the person they're supposed to be playing if it's a non-white person, because they assume that if they at least get someone who's the right ethnicity, it's close enough? One of my favorite TV movies is an LBJ biopic called All the Way, and one aspect of it that was kind of weird is they cast Anthony Mackie as Martin Luther King. He's both thinner and taller than King was. I have to wonder if they'd have cast someone that physically different with a white historical figure. The thing is, I get the point that you're making, and does that happen? Maybe. But also, to a degree, I'm someone who doesn't think that the specificity of the physical nature of a person, like race matters more often than not, especially with someone like Martin Luther King Jr. But by and large, like the specifics of height, the specifics of build, that unless that was particularly key to the part of their story you're putting in the biopic, that's the kind of thing I just don't get hung up on anyway. Like, try and capture the essence of the person if there is reference material for you to do so. And if it's a historical figure for so far back that there isn't a lot of reference material, just try and give a good performance. Like, I feel like looking more like the person is the least interesting basis to be casting on in terms of like the specifics of oh, you're like the same height, same build, same facial structure. Like, okay, but can you play the part? A while back, I read a sci-fi book about a general who took part in World War where he ended up murdering his stepsister, who came to his camp to reason with him, and sending her remains back to the other general. Her stepbrother, i.e. her blood brother, his stepbrother, okay, in cold blood on the calculation that destroy him, and without a functional commander, the opposing army would collapse. The bulk of the novel is him traveling around the galaxy for centuries trying to do good after he realized how terrible his actions were. Do you think you could ever sympathize with a protagonist like that? I have no idea. It would depend wholly on the quality of the writing and the degree to which it is able to get me into the perspective of a person like that. Like, that is a pitch that is difficult to do and would depend entirely on the execution of the entirety of the novel. So I absolutely cannot judge that based off a log line. I just can't. What's the oldest video game, any console or PC, that you still play and still enjoy? Mine is Sid Meier's Colonization from 1994, which I still play today. I think the oldest thing that I still touch, like I still touch like Steam ports of some of my old Super Nintendo games, like Mega Man X or Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, Chrono Trigger, a few others. Do you have any specific things you prepare / eat during the Christmas holiday season? Thankfully, I don't do the cooking. They are lovely meals that I get to enjoy. I don't do the cooking, and it's not always the same thing. Have you ever watched any of the movies or read any of the comics written by Alejandro Jodorowsky, such as the movie El Topo or the comics in Cantal or the Meta Barons, the latter two set in the same universe? There's a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, which documents his attempt to first make the movie adaptation of Dune in the mid-'70s. I've not seen any of his movies or read any of his things. I have seen Jodorowsky's Dune. I've seen that documentary. It is fascinating. It is a fascinating movie, and I'm slightly envious of the people who live in the timeline where he got to make that movie. What will your criteria be for ranking the Doctor Who specials? Will minisodes like Night of the Doctor be included? I will not be including minisodes. I am only going to be doing Modern Era, and I am going to be doing basically anything that's not part of a series proper. So that includes the New Year's specials, the Christmas specials, the anniversary specials, and also just the stuff, the weird. It's kind of a fifth series, but it's called the specials that David Tennant did after series 4. Like, that's the stuff that'll be included. Do you think Russell T Davies should apologize to Eccleston for the way he was treated? That is between the two of them. I don't think Eccleston would accept an apology at this point. I don't know if Russell has ever tried. I think it would be nice if two creatively minded people could come to terms and be okay with each other, but they have personal reasons for being in the positions that they're in, and I'm not going to say what Russell should or shouldn't do or whether or not it would help. What is it about Kang's reveal in Loki that you think worked better than Agatha Harkness, Kingpin, and the Flag Smashers? Well, the main thing is that Kang actually fit. Agatha Harkness doesn't work because she comes out of frickin' nowhere and is not only not a compliment to the themes of WandaVision, she's actively distracting from them. So Agatha was a frickin' disaster. Kingpin's not really a problem when he shows up, but he's just kind of there. The story doesn't need him. Kang was needed at the end of the first season of Loki. Somebody needed to be there. So... and then with the Flag Smashers, they fit, and they fit the thematics. They just fell down on the execution. That's where that one went wrong. So Kang was just the culmination of everything that needed to happen. He needed to be there for the narrative. He fit the themes. He actually bolstered the themes by his nature and what he did and what he said. And I felt in that last episode of the first season of Loki, he was very well executed from both a writing and a performance standpoint. Don't ask me about Jonathan Majors. I don't want to talk about it. But within the confines of that episode, he just, like, all three things came into play. The character should be there. He fit and complemented the themes, and it was well executed. The other three you mentioned fell down on at least one of those points. Should Joseph Campbell's monomyth be completely deconstructed or eschewed altogether, or should it be preserved and analyzed? I feel like people should just stop referencing it as a thing. Definitely stop using it as a template for how to tell stories. Like, here's the thing about the monomyth. The monomyth, in theory, if it was even accurate, which... But even if it was, in theory, this is a format that stories just naturally take. So we shouldn't need to be referencing it. Your story will take on certain elements of the monomyth kind of against your own will because it's in theory so embedded in our collective unconscious and our societal nature of storytelling that you don't need to keep referencing and deliberately evoking the damn thing. So leave it alone. That is my view. I don't think it is worth deliberately deconstructing, and I definitely do not think it should be anything anybody should be referencing as a template for how to tell stories. Unless you want a very bland and generic story that everybody's seen already 1,000 times. Which is better, New Year's or Christmas? Depends on how much alcohol you have on hand. If I was doing an old world style Christmas visit, which is better, New York City, Boston, or Baltimore? I don't know what old world style Christmas visit means. I don't understand the question. I would not want to be in any of those cities on Christmas. And I lived in 2 of them. How long do you think they will keep the Mavity gag going? At least for as long as RTD is in charge. What is a question that you are surprised you've never been asked on a live stream? That is a great question that I wish I had an answer to. Because there probably are some, but I'm now going to struggle and draw a blank. Yeah. I don't know. That is a great question, but I also don't know. Which would you rather rewatch if forced? Last Christmas or Cats? Am I allowed to drink? If I'm allowed to drink, then Cats. If I'm not, then Last Christmas. All right. So I am back in the main chat now. Thank you very much for your patience. No. Ooh, there's a super chat. I was going to say no super chats came in. Then somebody snuck in there. Richard D. Thank you very much for the super chat. What do you think of the character of Captain Mike Yates? So, hashtag RIP Richard Franklin. So, here's the thing. I haven't seen the stories in which he appears, I don't think. Or I've only seen a couple. Hang on. Let me get a list. Let me get a list on him. All right, I've seen Terror of the Autons. I've seen Claws of Axos. All right, I've only seen 3 of the stories he's been involved in, and he didn't leave a massive impression on me. Terror of the Autons, I don't remember him. Claws of Axos, I watched that so long ago, I need to rewatch it before I can do a review of it. Planet of the Spiders, I don't remember him. I remember in general thinking that, you know, having some recurring characters within unit was always a good thing. So I'm going to tentatively say that his presence was a welcome addition. But for the ones I've actually seen that he's appeared in, he is not in particular leaping to mind at this time. I still have a fair amount of Third Doctor stuff to get through, though. So bear that in mind. And, and also that is apparently your first super chat on a live stream. So thank you very much. The Mavity joke was so stupid. It's not worth getting upset over. It's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, do I think it's funny? No. It just doesn't seem worth getting worked up about. A lot of people I know online are queer or anxious about being fat or whatever. They told me I'm lucky I like my body even if I have other issues. I mean, yeah, but somebody telling you that can feel like they're kind of telling you stop complaining. And they rarely mean it that way, but it's like, well, you know, at least you don't have this or you don't have that. Like, none of that does anything to fix the problems that you have. Like it's like when somebody when you're like, well, how are things? And like, well, they could be worse. I'm like, that doesn't tell me anything. They could always be worse. That doesn't mean they aren't bad now. So especially if somebody tries to tell you, well, it could be worse as a way to try and cheer you up, that doesn't freaking help. So I'm sure a lot of those people that you know meant well, but that kind of thing frustrates me. Like, just because somebody is not experiencing one type of anxiety or discomfort or struggle in their life, that doesn't make their life easier than you. It just means they have different struggles. Yeah. I wish we had a real life Council of Geeks meetup. I like talking with y'all. I have toyed vaguely, like when I've been in LA for Gallifrey 1 or what have you, trying to organize a meetup, you know, when I've been in larger areas. I haven't, largely just because the logistics would melt my brain and stress me out. So that's an unlikely thing to happen unless somebody else organizes it. No, Mrs. Wicked Wolf, I don't. The Demons is one of the best Third Doctor stories. I still haven't seen that one. There's a fair bit of, well, classic in general that I still need to see, and a lot of Fourth Doctor stuff. But that's because he was on the show for so dang long. Pretty messed up how could be worse / don't worry about it / it'll be fine, etc. are so normalized as a response to anything bad. Yeah, and again, I don't think the people who say that ever mean anything bad by it. I think it's just a matter of you get that sense of, well, we can't do anything about it, so you try and offer a perspective to someone. Well, maybe this will help because we can't fix it, but you know, it usually doesn't because you can't just fix it. But it can make things sometimes feel worse if you end up feeling like, well, you're not even taking what I am going through seriously. Yeah, if you can find somebody to validate your experiences, that's a powerful thing. So, you know, eh. Los Angeles is pretty far from me. It's pretty far from me too, to be fair. I'd love to do a meetup, but I get too shy and I'm just a wallflower. See, like a big part of why I would never organize one is I would be paranoid that I would show up and nobody else would, and my self-esteem would just go. Does Disney own Doctor Who now? No. No, they don't. Did a whole video on that. Frickin' last year, I think I did a video on that. No, they don't. Which Doctor has the best costume? I don't know. I'll tell you the one I enjoy cosplaying the most out of the costumes I have is 13. I don't know though. Like I go up and down on that. I did a ranking on best Doctor Who costumes a little while ago. I don't even remember what I said. And this is the thing about those rankings. Like, I don't memorize them. And it's not like, I must remember this is my number one for always. Like, no, that was my number one at the time I made it. Maybe if I made it again, it'd be something else. But I don't have an answer off the top of my head. But there is a video you can check out in the back catalog. You wouldn't like me in person. No one does. Hey. I'm not going to tell you you need to change the way that you think about yourself. What I am going to say is, in this space, I would strongly encourage you to not verbalize putting yourself down in that manner, because I don't think anybody in here would agree with you. And it is my hope that the less you put those words forward, maybe the less you'll feel them. That may or may not end up being the case, but I hope that you won't take this as me condemning you. I hope that you will recognize that what I'm attempting to do in saying this is say that your feelings about yourself, they might be whatever they are, but that does not mean that is how everyone else sees you, and that goes in all directions. If you think you're amazing, not everybody does. If you think you're awful, not everybody does. Don't assume that everyone shares the view of you that you have of yourself, or even if you don't necessarily have that, do not project outwards the worst possible view is universally shared about you, because I promise you that's not true. Let's see. Having heard his music in The Tudors, Dragon Age, and the Netflix Castlevania, I think Trevor Morris should do music for Doctor Who after Murray Gold leaves the show again. I'll be okay if Murray decides he only wanted to come back for one series. What's my music taste? I do not have a punchy way to describe it. As far as songs go, I tend to favor pop. I like upbeat music a lot of the time, but like that's not a universal rule. It's all over the place. Is 15 wearing a skirt or a kilt? It's a kilt. The Fugitive Doctor. I love that top. It's a good look. Been a Whovian since 1979. First episode I saw was the Rebus operation. It took a year before PBS showed it in Louisiana. My favorite doctor was Tom Baker. Tom Baker was good, and that was a good time to come in on because that was the key to time, which is good stuff. Sorry, Vera, I was being glib. I know. I know Black Cover, and I don't want to give the impression that you shouldn't, be allowed to be glib, but I don't know. I'm trying to put down myself less, and I have felt better since making that move. And I don't know, it's something I hope for other people. I wouldn't get to meet up unless Vera does an international tour. Yeah, cool. Don't know how likely that is. Unless you have answered that before, since they will be showing up in the upcoming series of Doctor Who, what is your opinion on the Beatles? Very important band. I don't like them nearly as much as anybody else does. I'm not going to call them overrated because that would be inaccurate. They're very important. They're very influential. The shape of music would not be what it currently is without them. However, I don't like them nearly as much as everybody else does, and I'm really hoping they don't get deified in this thing. Let's go with that. I was wondering what you thought about the Timeless Child reference in the new episode. I'm happy to see the show actually do something with the Timeless Child. Yeah, I mean, like, same thing that I said about the episode Wild Blue Yonder. The RTD with small references is doing more about how those revelations impacted the Doctor than Chibnall did at all. Like, see, all right, I need to wrap up soon, but I am going to go off on this for a hot minute. This is what really ticked me off about Chibnall. I didn't like the Timeless Child. I didn't like it as an idea. I immediately didn't like it. However, when I talked about it around the time that it happened, I very frequently put a caveat on my dislike of it, saying that I still think this is a bad idea. However, I said very emphatically, I don't think it should be immediately retconned. I think Chibnall should be allowed to tell whatever story it is he has that he tends to weave coming out of this. Whatever story he thinks doing this will enable him to tell, I want to see what that is. That turned out to be, I'm going to swear on stream now, so there's your heads up, fucking nothing. That, more than anything, is what infuriates me about Chibnall's time on Doctor Who. Not just the things he chose to do, not just the choices he made, not just the writing not being up to snuff a lot of the time, but he would do things that should matter. You completely upended the Doctor's understanding of themselves, and it didn't matter. You destroyed half the goddamn universe, and it didn't matter. Why are you doing these things if you're not going to build stories out of the things that you are doing? I fundamentally, as a person who is also a writer, as a person with further creative ambitions, as a person who has a passion to tell stories, I do not understand a storyteller who would do these things and then build nothing with them. I don't understand in a way that infuriates me. Like, I don't want to get speculative about it. I'm not going to claim that this is the case. But if Chris Chibnall in 5 years ever says, I never really wanted the Doctor Who gig, but they asked me and nobody else was stepping up to take it, so I took it just to be sure the show went going. If he ever said that, I wouldn't call him a liar, because there was a distinct lack of passion in his work. From him specifically. Not from anybody else, but from him. Council of Geeks World Tour style, huh? There's kind of there's a tour I kind of want to do about around the New England East Coast area, but that wouldn't be Council of Geeks related. That if it happens would be a whole other thing. I will leave it at that. Self deprecation is quite poisonous. Kind of a fake it till you make it type deal. Even if you genuinely dislike yourself, lie about it until you believe the lie is stronger than you believe dislike. I mean, like, certainly try that. That doesn't work for everyone, but yeah, I do think that continually vocalizing, even as a joke, your own worst thoughts about yourself make them feel more tangible for a lot of us. I watched 1985 Santa Claus, the movie, for the first time. Didn't really understand why that's hated. It's certainly better than Supergirl, which was from the same director. I don't remember it being hated. I think at this point it's just largely forgotten that happened. How often do you explore new series? I love diving into weird unknown stuff. Carol and the End of the World really surprised me. Not that often, Neardian, because I don't have the time. This job pretty heavily dictates what I spend my time doing. And generally when I'm not doing something related to this job and this work, then I'm not watching anything at all. Because, when I'm with, whether it's my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my partner, when I'm with somebody, I'm there to be with them. And sometimes we'll watch stuff together, but I'm usually more focused on just enjoying my time with them. So most of my time that isn't spent literally away from my house and physically out of my office is spent with my partners or with my kid. And that means that the rest of the time that I could actually theoretically be watching something, I'm working. So if I'm watching something, it's probably work related. I get to things occasionally, but I don't have that much free time in terms of like being able to just go, oh, that looks weird and interesting. I'll check that out. Like, I don't have that. Especially given how behind I am and how much stuff I'm so far behind on commissioned reviews that sitting down and going, ooh, I have some free time. I'll check out this thing that I've never done before. A part of my brain's going to go, do you know how long the list of stuff you said you'd review or you've been paid to review and you haven't yet is? Get off your ass and watch that instead. This is the life I made for myself. That's a rod I made for my own back. Who's the most irritating character that a show wanted you to root for? It's not a show, but he was recurring enough that I'm going to count him. Damian Wayne in the animated DC movies. God, did I hate that kid. I just realized this will be the first time I'm older than the actress playing the Doctor in Companion. Do you feel similar? I don't know if this is the first time for me or not. I'm the same age as Matt Smith. So I've had that experience. Hang on a second. And I'm the same age as Jodie Whittaker, too. So I guess this is the first time that the Doctor has been, strictly speaking, younger than me. But like I kind of came to terms with the idea that the Doctor was my age already. And so that this feels like a small step from that. Can't stay, just jumped in to wish you Happy New Year. Thank you, Christy. Any ideas already when will be the first live stream of the new year? Well, these are every 2 weeks, so that should be the 9th for that. I know I have a couple of super chats to get to, and then I got to wrap it up. Have you or are you planning to see Wonka? I have not, and I am not. I'm just not interested. I've heard it's fine. I'm sure it is. I just have no interest. Supremo Mega On 2023, it's interesting the IP-driven films have decayed into controversy and disinterest, while the standalone auteur films have been more popular. I mean, I feel like we're kind of bending the notion of standalone, because, like, hang on, let me pull up the big movies of the year. Barbie, based on an existing IP. Super Mario Brothers, based on an existing IP. Oppenheimer, okay, I'll give you that one. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Fast 10, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Full River Red, oh, that's a Chinese movie. The Wandering Earth 2. All right, those are both Chinese movies. I don't know those. Little Mermaid, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Like, I think we had a lot more high-profile flops this year, but I'm not sure I would argue that, like, auteurism has made some kind of bold comeback. I feel like that might be preemptive. That said, I am planning in the new year to go off on our IP-driven present. I was going to say future. No, it's our present. This is just what we have. All right. Purple Raider, excuse me, came back again with another super chat. Very much appreciated. Very generous. I love the way you think about media. You talk about things with such detail and intelligence that even when I don't agree with you on something, I know exactly what thought process you went through to get there. Thank you. That's one of my favorite things to hear, because I don't expect everyone to agree with me. It'd be a boring world if they did. But I figured the least I can do as a basic metric for me being good at this job is that somebody can at least understand why I landed on a different conclusion than they did, even if they think I'm wrong. If I can explain myself well enough that you know how I got the answer I did, even if you disagree with that answer, then I think I'm doing okay at this job. Heading off for now. Hope you have a happy new year. Thank you, Rowan. I should wrap it up too. You say that while drinking your trademark water. Well, this would be the trademark water. This is, however, currently empty. I got to rectify that. Anyways, I do need to wrap it up. Thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you have had a lovely year. And if you didn't, I hope that you have a better new one. So, stuff coming up. Tomorrow, I am streaming on Twitch, 10:30, back to Baldur's Gate 3. Later on this week, hopefully, probably tomorrow, I'll also have a new video up in the break room going off on a specific aspect of the new Russell T. Davies era of Doctor Who that and then I've got some other stuff that'll be up in the break room before the end of the year. Review of the third Doctor story, Carnival of the Monsters. That'll go up later on, probably in the new year. I will have reviews going up for things like the third season of Hilda and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And some other stuff. But that's what's coming up in the immediate future. Saturday's video here on this channel is going to be my picks for the 10 best pieces of entertainment of 2023. And then we jump into the new year. So thank you all for joining me. Yes, Art, I will be at Gallifrey 1 in February. I'll start hyping that up once we get into the new year. I'll start hyping that up more. But yes, I am going to be in Los Angeles for the Gallifrey 1 convention in 2024, and I am very much looking forward to it. So thank you very much all for joining me, and be well, be safe, and be kind, and please remember that you are beautiful, you are valid, you are loved. You are the council, and I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.
McCavity!